All right, it's 10:30 on, I don't know, whatever day it is. So I tried this morning at 8 o'clock. I tried a shade tree sort of apparatus just to get the engine up enough to put the new motor mount on. And my chain fall, which worked great, by the way, but my chain fall got stuck, so I couldn't bring it back down. So I had to go to a buddy's shop to grab another gantry so I can release my gantry. And so now we're just using his because that's what I had to do. So anyway, here we are. And I got it up high enough and the new motor mount on. And we're gonna, it's lined up and we're about to put the bolts in and socket down. The problem is that if you notice over here, I'm turning the camera sideways, that's not good. So that arm is attached to, well, it's not attached to the engine, which is what it should be. So as I was trying to take those bolts off, one fell onto that arm and I was like, wow, where did that come from? And then I realized that the other one fell out. So I think that both bolts, and I haven't finished looking at it, are sheared off on the inside of the engine block, which is just great. I mean, because that's exactly what I was looking for. So now probably what I'll have to do is pull this entire engine up and out high enough, and that's what the bolts look like. So definitely not long enough to go through there and inside to the block. So I don't know if I'll be able to screw them out or what, but there you can see that there's no room. I can barely get my impact gun in there between the wall and here. So I'll end up having to pull the whole engine out of here to then try and get those two bolts out and retap it and then put that motor mount back together again. Not quite sure how this happened, but that's why we always inspect our engines and our bays and stuff like that. So anyway, we're gonna put this motor mount back on so it's at least sitting on 3 for the moment. And we have a yard inspection, so when we go to the yard, I may do it right after the inspection while it's up on the hard. It'll be easier for us to do. So we're gonna put this on here. I've already set, I leveled up the foot from the old one to this one, so it'll be close. We'll still have to adjust the entire engine, and obviously because that one's all screwed up, the whole thing's screwed up. And like I said, we're probably gonna put dripless packings in, and when I do that, I'm gonna have to pull the prop, the shaft, the coupling, and everything else. So that's a good time at that point to pull the engine out, because I'm gonna have to realign it anyway, so I'm not really worrying about it. This is literally just to get it up to the yard, and then we'll haul the engine out and then do the dripless seals and then put the engine back in and get this done. So that's probably going to be my plan right now, because I've got a lot of other stuff I've got to get to today and between now and Tuesday when we have our inspection. So I'll show you what that looks like when it's done. Okay, so it's early morning, December 3rd, something like that. Beautiful day out. It's really nice. I'm in shorts. And so this was supposed to be, as usual on a boat, an easy project. And when easy projects happen, they never, ever, 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 ever happen. So I have a Coast Guard inspection on Wednesday. I was doing an inspection myself on the boat and realized that I had lost a motor mount that was broken. And that is, it sheared off. And I showed this to you in the last video. So I said, well, let's go replace all that crap. And things escalated very quickly. So I put 2 brand new motor mounts in. And then I went to go put this leg back on the outboard side of that, and realized that the bolts had sheared off on that side. So basically it was just kind of sitting on this one, and that whole leg had sheared off. They sheared off inside this engine, or the engine block. There was one hole right here. I said, you know, I'm just going to put 1 bolt back in there for now, do my Coast Guard inspection. I'll worry about this in a little bit. At least I've got something in there holding the engine up. You can see where these 2 bolts were right there. I got one sheared off somewhere. I don't know where the hell it is anymore. But anyway, and you can see how bad the other motor mount was. So we needed to do both of them for sure. If it looks like that, it's pretty well screwed. So needed to get done. Just didn't want to do it right before a Coast Guard inspection. So now that bolt right there, which I just bought, the bolt hole doesn't go anywhere. and the other 2 bolts have sheared off on the inside of this block. So now I have to drop this engine. I have to dismantle this entire engine, the transmission, the coupler, all of the wires, all the fuel lines, all the electrical, the exhaust, and haul this motor up so I can work on it and tap out those 2 holes. So this has escalated very quickly to like now easily a 2-day job to get this thing out. Not what I want to do before a Coast Guard inspection. So I'm going to move this out of the way. I've got to drop the engine back down. I've got to reposition the gantry. So I've got to pick a point there and there so I can haul the thing straight up, block it, and then work on it up at this level right here. Drop it back in, realign everything, put everything back, and then hopefully be ready to go for Monday to drive the boat up for the inspection. So that's where we start this morning. And also, I still have all of this I have to rewire, and all of the gauges, which I'm trying to program, don't really work either. So got to finish working on all that. So, and interestingly enough, all of a sudden this started working, which wasn't working yesterday. Anyway, lots of weird stuff. We'll see what happens. So I will do another video once I get this thing all undone and hauled up. That actually wasn't too bad, right? Took us what, an hour?
To do what? To figure out how we're gonna do this?
No, yeah, to do all this. So I've got all the motor mounts out. I've disassembled the transmission coupling right down there. We've done transmission, throttle cables. We've done, I'm gonna have to cut all of this and then we're gonna rewire it. But the exhaust boot right there, the supply and the return line, and we've got the gantry reset and back out. I've decided to use 2 chains, and then obviously span it across, and we're gonna jack this thing up and we're gonna see if we can't tap these things out. On the upside, I get to clean this engine bay, which is really why you always want to pull an engine out of a boat, is so you can clean underneath it. So I may get some 4x4s and just run 2 4x4s across there, and then we can have something to set it on and then work and see if we can't get it out. So that's it. Took us literally an hour to dismantle this entire thing, get it ready for hauling. So did about the same thing last year when I did this one. Took me, I was ready to go within, by the time lunchtime rolled around, I had the old motor out and the new one in and ready to go. So hopefully we'll do the same thing with this one here, except for we got some effery to do on the back side of that and take some old bolts out. So we'll see what else we got to get into. But quick update, it only took about an hour. So we'll see. All right, so short work of getting the engine out. It's only 2:30. We've already cleaned the bilges, cleaned up the engine, started spray painting it. If I had a tap, I'll show you the reason why we took this whole thing out. So if I zoom in, right there and right there, that's where the 2 bolts go to hold on the arm, which go onto that motor mount. So literally nothing was holding on this side of the engine, which obviously isn't a good thing. And you know, I forgot to mention and point out, like, why am I doing all this right now and why I'm kind of in a hurry to get all of this done. I didn't want to do this is because, again, I got a Coast Guard inspection on Wednesday and I'm hauling out on Tuesday. Well, what does a Coast Guard inspection mean for you guys that don't know? This boat is inspected by the Coast Guard, so it has what we call a COI on it, a certificate of inspection, which used to be located right there, but I've ripped that off of the panel. So that means I can carry more than 6 paying passengers for hire. So this is a charter boat. So I can carry, because it's inspected by the Coast Guard, and we've done stability tests, and I've got other licenses and qualifications and radio licenses and the whole 9 yards, I'm able to carry more people on board this boat. So this boat carries 18 people plus 2 crew, or I can operate it by myself because I've gotten certified through the Coast Guard to do single-handed operation. So anyway, I have that inspection, my out of the water inspection. So the boat gets inspected every year. Every other year, we do an out of the water inspection where we pull the boat out. They do a hull inspection. They do a safety check, just like they would do normally every year for the in the water. So not that I would have waited, but it needed to get done. I found it, and I always make sure that safety is number one priority in my business. So I make sure that we get everything done. So it was busted. We got to fix it. There's no question about it. I probably could have hit it from the Coast Guard. It's not worth it to me. So here we are on a Saturday hauling out the engine and going to get those out in 2 new motor mounts with their legs put back on. So tomorrow I'll come back down, try and get those tapped out and drop the motor back in, realign the engine, obviously, and then hopefully get everything plugged back in because it's just dangling here, and get it ready for delivery on Tuesday morning up to Ross Marine for the inspection on Wednesday morning. So that's where we sit. Looks like a hard job, but you know, I've done this a bunch of times, so it's really not that big of a deal to haul the engine out if you know what you're doing and you know you got to take apart. So there it is. That's the reason why we're doing it, and that's the reason why we had to do it, and that's the impetus for us doing it so quickly. And look, we've already started spray painting it again, just rattle cans, but it looks like this one now, which is the new one. So it almost looks better. So, you know, throw a can of paint on it. We sanded it down, we cleaned it, put some brake clean on the whole thing, wiped it all down, ground down all the old stuff to get down a fresh steel, and put a coat of paint on it. So it looks a million times better. And it also help with further down the line when we're looking at other issues, because everything's going to be white now. I can see where all the oil leaks are coming from and everything else. So really just helps out. So that's it. I'll show you guys tomorrow's episode. All right, so it's Sunday. Bilge is clean, all wiped out, sprayed the motor mounts, sprayed down the motor as much as we're gonna spray down the motor with paint and everything else. It's literally just, you know, lipstick on a pig sort of thing here. It looks good now. A little protection, we ground it and sanded it, so any of the major bad spots. And you can see that we have our leg put back on. I'm still missing a bolt, but we were able to get both of these out really easily this morning, which is really great news. My buddy Miles came down with a great tap set or an out set, and he was able to pull these both out. We had them out in literally an hour. So went through and again cleaned up all of the bilge, painted, did some other service work that I could do that was easy while the boat was out. I got the end caps off for the cooler. The zinc is out, brand new zinc, already broke on the inside. Ridiculous. So I had to pull that back out, and I'll redo that one once it's back in. It's pretty easy now. I've hogged the threads out, so that's pretty good. And then I'll finish painting the top of the motor. Did a little fiberglass work, just some little dry rot that we took care of, just fiberglassed over it. It's not that big of a deal. Yes, I could have done other things, but again, I'm on a time frame crunch here, and we got a lot going on. So I just wanted to get it back in, but it'll protect it. It's not structural, so it's just a little dry rot on a couple of the little 2x4s right there. So just threw some epoxy on that, and we're good to go. So we're going to drop this in here and see how bad the alignment is off. All right, so the engine's in the hole. It's pretty painless. We actually reset the gantry to move it over in that direction just a little bit. So when we brought the motor down, it wasn't hitting against the side. So that was a good call, just to move it over a little bit, and it went down real easy. We were able to get it on the mounts. When it went down, we did the electricals on the inboard side, so that was easy to get to. And then the boot here, I know it looks stupid. It's a silicone boot. It is what it is, and passes Coast Guard inspection. I know there's a little hump in it, but COVID, can't get any corrugated hose, so that works. Anyway, so now the next trick is to align the engine. And now that I have 2 good motor mounts and I've actually reset it in the position that it kind of was before, it's almost inconsequential. You can see how far out of alignment that it is. So this is the transmission right there, and that's the shaft coupling. Those 2 flanges should be lining up perfectly with one another in like 1/1000ths all the way around. The attitude of the engine looks pretty good. It's a little far away to tell right now, but we've got a major problem with that, the flange and the transmission not mending up. So I have to release these two back bolts here and those two back bolts there, and same thing in the front, and basically shift the whole motor over to the inboard side to align that. I've blocked the shaft where I want it. It's kind of a short shaft with only one little cutlass bearing that kind of has some slop, but you sort of center it where it needs to be inside the cutlass bearing and inside the shaft. And again, remember, I'm probably going to be going with dripless packings once I go up to the yard anyway, but the engine needs to be aligned before that goes in anyway. So that's probably, you know, with all the vibration through here, that's probably why the mounts failed and broke anyway, or at least on this side, because of the misalignment that was going on. So I'm going to get that last bolt over there, which I can't get with my impact wrench, so we got to do that with a smaller one, and then we're going to shift the whole motor over, and we'll see what happens. On the upside, everything has been loosened up, so it's not like we're fighting with rusted stuff anymore, so it shouldn't be too bad. So I will readjust this and then show you what it looks like when it's lined up, but that is definitely not good at all.